All right, folks, welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Some summer this is. These kids are more busy now than they were in the summer. If you like the videos, don't forget to like them, subscribe, share them far and wide. And of course, if you're on Rumble, it'd be great if you would mosey on over to Locals and vice versa. Even if you're on YouTube, go over to Rumble, subscribe and like there. It has an enormous impact. I'm going to say this at every episode because it's so true. It helps us out, of course, with the algorithms greatly, but also with advertisers. It's an enormous help. So if you like the show, you want to support it, that's how you do it. The best place, of course, to support us is right down there, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. So I did cancel the book club yesterday because we didn't do it for Mother's Day. So wouldn't be fair. You know, the problem we have in this country is a problem of fatherlessness, or it's supposedly getting better. Never was a problem of motherlessness. Is that a word? I'm not sure. All right. So today on Monday, I'm going to play a clip here. I'm not going to, well, maybe I will run through some of the Sunday shows, but it was Father's Day and you probably didn't watch much of them. I strongly suggest, I can't do it. So I'm giving advice that I personally cannot live by. But at all times, when you can sometimes just it doesn't have to be long, a half a day to tune it out and just enjoy the day. That's what you should do. And, my kid, I don't think I can't remember when I had a Father's Day like this. Like Laura's always great, but the kids made me the kids. And of course she helped, made breakfast, cleaned up, which is crazy. I'm a bit of an OCD neat freak. I don't know if everybody knows this, but I am. My father was like that, and he made me crazy. So I just literally can't stand. Like my office is cluttered right now, and I can't stand it. It drives me nuts. I actually think one day, God forbid, of course, and but I don't even want to say it out loud because I believe in the power of words. But it stresses me to the point of unhealthy. I don't like it. So that you know that, and they cleaned, and then I got a pretty bang up dinner. There's one thing I miss about Florida above everything else, and they know it. And you know what that is? Publix. Publix, for those of you who don't know, is the greatest grocery store to ever be established. Publix, by the way, they're Trump supporters. Publix is one of the best places you could work if you're like a kid or not even a kid, maybe you're not a kid, you're going back to college and you need a part-time job or something while your spouse works. Like Publix has the best deli, Publix has the best butcher. Publix will find you anything. Like my boy Anthony, who was the fish guy, Publix sold me the very first year we were there because I couldn't find scungili for the Feast of the Seven Fishes, and this guy didn't have it. The guy at the butcher and / seafood department Publix, he orders out like a big box of scungili just for me. And for those of you who don't know what it is, it's fresh conch, right? So that was it. And they have the best rib roast sales in the world. They have the best subs in the world. Now, I'm talking about grocery stores, the best everything. Publix is the bomb. So they went to Publix. Long story short, the bakery. Oh my God, the macarons from that place. Anyway, I miss Publix a lot. And there is a store in the Carolinas that's well known, and it's all right. It's a good store. It's not my Publix. And the one that's by us is you don't get to go 20, 25 minutes away to go grocery shopping, So they did that, and it was cool. So, I always have a nice Father's Day, but it was a really nice Father's Day yesterday. And I hope you guys out there, you other dads, had one too. All right. I guess we can get into this now. Obviously, there's a little bit of a stir. I did the turning point poll, for those of you who don't know that, and we'll go over the results of that. Am I terribly surprised? Just to clear up a few questions, we polled the candidates that were on the reported VP finalist list. We did not, people are like, wow, why did they just ask that? If you remember last time, and we did the turning point poll last time, it was everybody who was in contention. Ben Carson, Kerry Lake, Kirsty Nome. Everybody who was in contention. Vivek Ramaswamy, JD Vance. So we just laid it all out. This time we did the finalists, the reported finalists. And listen, I don't Trump is a funny guy. I don't ever presume to know what Trump is going to do. Trump shocked me with Mike Pence. That was not the talk. Did I know he was talking with Mike Pence? Yes. Did I think he was going to pick Mike Pence? Maybe, but he was under a lot of pressure to pick somebody else. Hindsight is kind of 2020 because you know what the strategy now is from the Trump campaign in 2016. It made sense to pick Mike Pence at the time, even though he's a lying, two-faced piece of crap. I mean, the man has lied directly to my face. Speaking of turning point, he lied to Charlie Kirk's face. We were all backstage. He lied to everybody. I mean, everybody, like, about what was going to happen with the Senate. And then he dropped that letter bomb saying that he won't do anything about the electors. He caved. Obviously, they got to him somehow. But 10 days before, not even, I think it was like 8. He's staring. I don't want to give, Charlie's people's names away. They're not public figures, but I mean, he's staring everyone in the face backstage, Laura, everybody, we're going to fight that everything now. He's so full of shit. And then, by the way, he goes out there on the stage and gives that speech. I don't have to bring it up. Everyone knows the archive I'm talking about. We're going to fight every single elector. I'll fight them on the beaches. We'll fight them and see. Such a liar. What a liar. Anyway, what a politician. But it made sense back then to pick him because if you remember, he did endorse Ted Cruz before the Indiana primary, which Donald Trump won handily, and that was the end of the campaign, the primary campaign. But when he endorsed Trump, the real Mike Pence for a second came out. Or it's not the real Mike Pence. It's the calculating Mike Pence who thought Donald Trump was going to win and was hedging his bets. And actually, that's probably let's be honest, that's probably the most likely scenario. So what happened here? So he goes to I'm going to endorse Ted Cruz, but I got to tell you, I mean, it was the worst endorsement I've ever heard, but I got to tell you, this guy, Donald Trump's talking about all the right things. I mean, I'm from the Midwest. I'm a governor here. It makes sense what he's saying about trade and immigration. That's true. I hope that wasn't valuable. You hear something break? All right. So basically, it was more of a ringing endorsement of Donald Trump than it was an endorsement of the person he was supposed to be endorsing. So there you have it. Hold on 1 second, guys. All right. That little reprimand. All right. So there you have it. So now I don't presume to know what he's going to do this time. I just will repeat what I have always said, which is that you better pick somebody the administrative state fears, if not as much as you, more so, because you're not going to last long. If they can't get Mitch McConnell or John Thune to get rid of you, and believe me, there are tons of chumps in the U.S. House of Representatives. There's coupled with Democratic votes, there are enough John Duartes and David Valadeos to get rid of you. But let's say they can't get Mitch McConnell to go ahead and sanction that conviction. They'll just pull. You'll be JFK'd, bro. I mean, does anyone seriously believe anymore that's not going to happen? Is this so far out? Is this even in the realm of so-called conspiracy theory anymore? I mean, if you don't know that, if that's not second nature to you, understanding that they absolutely will do that, one way, shape, or one form or the other, then I submit you're a child. You're a mental child. You don't know the world you live in anymore. And I kind of envy you. I envy your ignorance. It is sometimes bliss. It's also dangerous, however. So I'll live in the real world where people are evil, mostly. And I'll do what's necessary to protect against that and prepare for that while you sit there and fall off the turnip truck every day for the first time. Not me. No, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So here's the problem with JD Vance, though. And I would say this to the actors, and we'll look at the results in a little bit. But here's the problem with JD Vance. The problem with JD Vance is that Mike DeWine gets to choose who JD Vance's replacement is. Mike DeWine is a world-class chumperoonie. All right. And I'm trying to see if I can't find. There it is right here. You know what? Let's take a look at it right now. Let's take a look at it right now. Let's say we'll go back to this in a second. I want to go over Trump's Midwest strength here, which I think is worth talking about JD Vance, because on paper, JD actually is like the perfect vice presidential candidate. He really is. I'll tell you, when Laura and I first, I mean, I knew who JD Vance was. My daughter loved his book and the Netflix movie. She thought it was like the most heartwarming, greatest movie ever when she first saw it. And then that made her interested in the book. I gotta tell you, I was like, this dude is the real deal, and one day he could be president. You know, that was like my initial reaction of JD Vance. A really cool guy, really down to earth. You know, I remember when he was running, you know, sound, didn't fall for the BS at all. You know, was very realistic about where he thought he would end up in that Senate race against Tim Ryan. Thought that I could go to the U.S. Senate, be the person that I ran as, you know, be the person that I ran as. And my problem right now is not anything that I'm running on. My problem is what they say about me. My problem is how they twist the story. My problem is that people don't know me yet and don't know whether or not I'm going to deliver. I go there and just be the guy that I am saying I'm going to be, supporting the policies that I'm campaigning on, and I'll be fine. You know, when it comes to reelection, I'll be fine. That is rare. You will not see that in politics often. I'm sorry. It's just true. There's very few people that I've met who are like that. By the way, he deserves an honorable shout out. Just with him not long ago. Like Bob Good is like that, even though I don't agree with Bob Good on everything. He's a very admirable man where, you know, I mean, this is a guy who won a race by like 2 points or something, maybe a little bit more. But initially in a district in Virginia, that's not that, you know, it's not right wing. And he just, Scott Walker, by the way, is like that. He is. But you know, just like, I'll go there and I'll be the guy I'm running on, and then they'll reward me for it, or they won't. But I was elected by, you know, the 52%. Why would I care about what the other 48 yells about all the time? Not what I care, but I wasn't elected by the 48. They rejected me. They voted no. And I was elected by the 52 by saying these things. So now I'm going to do these things. It's not a hard decision here unless you're a sellout scumbag. I mean, that's it. Anyway, that was my initial impression of JD. He's been that way. He has been that person. And he's now a leading contender for the vice presidency. That being said, and, you know, it is what it is. There has to be some kind of a deal with Mike DeWine. Like, there has to be, because he is such a scumbag. Mike DeWine is a scumbag, and he will pick somebody who is not at all like he would pick Dolan or something. I'm serious. I am deadly serious. He would pick like a Dolan. It has to be somebody who is MAGA. That's who listen, Bernie just won that election in the primary in a landslide, and he's going to beat Sherrod Brown, despite what the polls say right now. There was just zero chance that Ohio and the Midwest, which we're going to look at in a bit, is doing what it's doing right now and voting for Sherrod Brown too. It is a problem with Republicans right now. They are under this one poll. The Monmouth poll has to do it, don't they? The Monmouth poll has to be that poll. Murphy plus 13. The Monmouth poll has to be that poll where it's like, oh yeah, the Republicans are leading on the generic ballot by a larger margin than Trump's leading Biden. Says one poll, the Monmouth poll. Everybody else shows a very different picture, because Republicans are just not getting the votes of certain white, low prop voters. And of course, non-white, both Hispanic and Black, they're doing better. They're just not doing as well as Trump. That is so evident in the polling. Like, Patrick Murphy must have put his thumb on the scale and changed those results, reweighted those results to weight more for college-educated Republicans in metro areas. Because I looked at the methodology. That wouldn't explain it. He's now doing what we do. All right. All right. So anyway, let's look at it. Because, the thing is, there's enormous upside to JD Vance, and then there's enormous downside. The downside is who replaces him. And you're going to lose who we have referred to as the most representative senator in the United States Senate. JD Vance is the most representative senator in the United States Senate, meaning for somebody who's never watched the show before and doesn't know what I'm talking about, he goes to DC and represents the views and policies of his state better than others. And I would say that is true of JD Vance when it comes to Republicans. There are Democrats who very much represent the policies of their state. So I don't want to, that's not true. That's actually the problem that Republicans have. Democrats are much more representative in office. They do what their voters, or at least their base, wants them to do. Republicans do not. They backstab their voters. And JD is like leaps and bounds. Are there some other good ones? There are, of course, but I would submit that none of them are on the level JD Vance is on. So that, of course, is incredible. That, of course, is incredible. But losing that, ultimately, even if Trump wins the presidency, he absolutely needs a viable conference in both chambers in order to get through his agenda. And replacing JD Vance with Matt Dolan, who's going to vote to remove the names of the Cleveland Indians or rename the Cleveland. That's not a good idea. All right. Anyway, let me make it bigger because I know that it's very small. I could have read the article from the Washington Examiner or the Daily Mail. Just a little bit of a clarification. When Turning Point did give them these results, there was I think 1,995 completions or interviews conducted. Then when we gave the deadline for the cutoff, there were people who were still taking it. It didn't change the result at all. It was very clear. I just wanted to point that out because you may see 47 or 48 instead of 47.7. Folks, when you're talking about 5 to 8 interviews of two, it doesn't remarkably change a 2,000 sample poll. All right. So as you can see, the activist base here is going to vote. They're going to vote like seniors are going to vote. Big deal. Big deal. There are some people in attendance who are up on the fence, but very, very few and far between. Let me just say there's just no way to get. There is no way to get 100%. It's just not. That's not how statistics works. All right, so here's the question. Whom of the following would you prefer Donald Trump choose as his vice president? And this is where I think there was a lot of confusion. The description to the prompt is not there. It says, it has been reported that Donald Trump has narrowed down his search of vice presidential nominees. The 4 finalists are, and name them. And then it's whom of the 4 finalists would you prefer Donald Trump choose as his vice president? So all we did is ask about the candidates who are being reported as the finalists. Tim Scott, Marco Rubio, Doug Burgum, and JD Vance. Interestingly enough, Doug Burgum is high on the betting markets. And I actually think that's look, I don't presume to know what Trump's going to do, and I don't like to do that. But if you're a better, I'm tempted to say it's a smart bet. Doug Burgum's a good choice. He could be a good choice. Would he be my choice? No. But he looks presidential. He represents a part of the country where you're trying to project a more populous, working class, Midwest, plain states, roots kind of value system. I suppose it makes sense. I think he'd be likable. I think the American public would like him. I do worry he'd be a little bit Dan Quayle-y. All right. I've never talked to him in person. I've never met the guy. I'd have to assess it myself to see that. I don't think Donald Trump would pick somebody who would end up being like a Dan Quayle. But as you could see, I'm just going to answer that question. I would choose Ben Carson. I'm just telling you. Personally, it has to be a bombshell. Okay. It has to be somebody who is totally different. Gifted Hands, the movie about Ben Carson, is literally featured on Netflix right now. You are tapping into, because it's leaving Netflix soon, so they're promoting it. You are tapping into currently, without Ben Carson, an entire new generation of non-white voters. And we're going to play a clip in a bit about that. Ben Carson is a role model for them. He's soft-spoken, however, difficult to attack, and I think he's solid, man. I don't think he is. He is. Dr. Ben Carson is solid. Tree trunks, 4 feet on the ground. Roots firmly planted. The man's not movable. He's not. I don't think the deep state would be comfortable with Ben Carson. If I wasn't going to pick somebody like Ben Carson, then I would throw a hand grenade. Something like a Vivek Ramaswamy, although I don't know him well enough, so I therefore don't trust him enough. Or like a Tucker Carlson. I would throw a bomb. So, I mean, to be honest with you, I probably would do that. It just seems like Vivek is very versed in some of the issues that I think are necessary and that I personally care about, but also that I think the electorate cares deeply about, which is financial freedoms. I don't know if you saw the headline, foreclosures are up again, another over 3%. 5%, by the way, was the breaking point for the financial crisis. Of course, those were subprimes, so, there was something else going on there. But it's not good news. But I would throw a hand grenade. I would not pick a conventional person like Marco Rubio. Tim Scott is a wonderful guy, but his office is a revolving door with Wall Street. I'm sorry, it's true. And defense contractors, it's not, But really, Wall Street. I know several GOP donors from the street who were anti-Trump, and let me just give you a sample of 4 that I speak to pretty routine, or did, during the primary, because they want to know where to put their money. Now, they don't call you unless they need something. That's how these people are. And their problem is at least one is probably listening. So, yeah, I'm talking about you. I'm right too, so just cut it. But anyway, they either went to Haley, they were looking at Haley, they were looking at Tim Scott. And Tim Scott was very comfortable to them because they know that if they need Senator Tim Scott, they can get him. I don't like that. I don't want too big to fail to pick up the phone and call the vice president whenever the hell they feel like it. Do you? I don't. I don't think that's a good idea, and I don't think that America thinks that's a good idea. And while we're on the topic of vice presidents, Donald Trump is leaving something on the table again. There is almost no talk about Kamala Harris, who is absolutely less likable than Joe Biden, less likable than, in many ways, than Hillary Clinton. And the country does not want her to be president if Joe Biden kicks the bucket in his second term. It is a very real issue. The man is running around defecating his own pants. He doesn't know where the hell he is. He's turning and putting his hand on the heart of a flag that's in the complete 180 direction of where he's facing. Americans don't believe he would make it through a second term. You have, you have a softball, a layup here. They're not comfortable with the fact that Kamala Harris could be the next president at all. They weren't in 20, but Trump kind of left it on the table. Now it's even worse. So that would be like a direct hit that I would lob at somebody. I would. Is that too dirty for you or something? Come on, play nice. We got to play nice. Joe Biden is old. He doesn't know where he is. He's senile and he's crapping his pants. He will absolutely kick the bucket most likely before his second term is up. Do you want Kamala Harris being the head of this country? End of story. You'll get the oohs and the ahs from all the media outlets. And guess what? Every American will sit at home and say, oh, man, that's right. I don't want her to be president. Anyway, moving on, as you can see here, JD Vance won this and he won it in a landslide, 43%. Undecided came in second at 27%. Tim Scott was 15. Marco Rubio was 8. Doug Burgum was last, dead last. Now, again, this is among activists. I will tell you, however, that it is by gender, like there is no lopsided male vote. There is no, lopsided female vote. Of the age group that Turning Point is, right? In overall, the gender representation is really right on the money. So there's no like male or female opinion here that's being swayed. Men and women, or girls and boys, because Turning Point has some young people there that frankly are only going to be eligible by November. They prefer JD Vance in basically equal amounts. All right. Mike Johnson there's no love here for Mike Johnson. 10% are undecided. Only 8% strongly approve the job that Mike Johnson is doing. 24% somewhat approve. The man has a 32% approval rating among activists in his own party. I mean, staunch activists, which you will see in a second, have a huge influence on the Trump campaign and now the RNC, which we're going to get to in a bit. Somewhat disapprove, at least the softer, squishy 23%, but strongly disapprove is 36%, giving Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson, a negative 28 intensity index among activists in Turning Point USA. Not good. Not good at all. Let me ask you, if you were to ask activists that about Hakeem Jeffries, left-wing activists, what do you think you would get? I think Hakeem Jeffries would score pretty well. Mitch McConnell gives Mike Johnson at least some silver lining here. Strongly approve of Mitch McConnell, 1%. And that is representative of 14 people's opinions out of all of these interviews. 14. Somewhat approve is 4, giving him a total net approval, giving him a total combined approval rating among activists at Turning Point of 5%. That's it. 79% strongly disapprove the job that Mitch McConnell is doing as the leader of the U.S., minority leader of the U.S. Senate. Another 10%, by the way, somewhat disapprove. You're talking about 90%, folks. 90% of the party's most activist base disapprove of the job that Mitch McConnell is doing. That speaks for itself. Do I have to add anything to this? What do you think that, well, first of all, before we even get that, the opposition to Ukraine is way worse than it was the last time we did this straw poll. There were still some people who said, you know what, let's give non-lethal aid to Ukraine. We can give them some money. You know what, we can give them, humanitarian aid. We had asked in various ways last time. And yes, it was unpopular, but it still had some degree of people, I think it was like 25 or 30%, who said that they still supported it. At this point, 94% are done giving any assistance to Ukraine. Money, taxpayer money going to Ukraine is opposed by 94% of the Turning Point attendees. You just don't get numbers like this. You just don't. And overwhelmingly, they want Donald Trump in his next administration, if he wins, by the way, which is how it is worded. If President Donald Trump were to win in November, which issue should be the biggest priority during his first 100 days in office? It's immigration going away. Going away. Not even close. And by the way, that doesn't change by race, which was a little bit surprising to me. Now, I can't give that out until they're ready to give that out. But, again, white, black, Hispanic, equally, other, Asian and other equally. They just want them to focus on immigration and border security, which they're honestly all seeing as an economic issue anyway. Very much the way they saw it in 16. It was seen by the electorate in 16, which is, of course, a bad sign for Joe Biden. All right. It's 12:34. Let's do the Midwest appeal thing here, shall we? All right, we shall. Where are you? Okay, well, it's obvious I'm going to start with this. There is a new Des Moines Register poll out. Do you remember when we came out with the Trump plus 14 in Iowa or whatever it was, and people were like, no way. This is post-conviction. And then, by the way, Seltzer came out with the Trump plus 15 3 days later or 2 days later, completely confirming that state with Donald Trump on the ballot is gonzo for the Democrats. However, without Donald Trump on the ballot, it does go back to being close. That's just true. I think Republicans would do better in congressional level races, even though they didn't in 2018 without Trump on the ballot. I think they'll not like Ohio, where they were able to resist that shift to the left. I think they'll do all right with the governor's mansion, depending on whether or not a Democrat is able to pose well as a conservative Midwestern Democrat. Look, it happens in the South still all the time. Cooper is a fanatic, but he posed as a conservative and he won twice. You put in Nikki Haley at the top of the ticket. Ohio and Iowa are back to the days of George Bush if you're lucky. If you're lucky. All right. Let's put this up. Trump maintains a big lead over Biden and RFK Jr. despite the felony conviction, Iowa polls show. So with that in mind, what are we doing? We forgot the... Let's try this again. New poll from the Des Moines Register this morning. Trump maintains big lead over Biden and RFK Jr. despite felony convictions, Iowa poll shows. By the way, did you check me out on Gorka yesterday? 7 o'clock? It's a travesty, Brenna Bird says, outside Donald Trump's New York hush money trial. And of course, I said this at the time. It was. And remains, because of course there are still other cases, and the sentencing is coming up next month, in about a month, right when the RNC convention is going on, by the way, which is just totally outrageous third world crap. Brenna Bird, of course, was the Attorney General of the state of Iowa, and the Hawkeye State Attorney General. It was very important for her to be out there voicing her support for Donald Trump during what is absolutely a kangaroo court persecution of a political opponent. I just have no patience for anyone who is so filled with hate and irrational hatred for one man that they no longer possess the brain power to be able to see how dangerous what they are doing to Donald Trump is for the future of our country. I have children. Yes, I'm a pollster. Yes, I'm always impartial in my work. But of course, I'm a human being like other pollsters are. I have children, and I don't want them growing up in a friggin' police state, which is where the country is headed right now. I mean, really, in fact, we're here. It hasn't come after you personally yet, but it is going after people, average people. And if they get their way, Donald Trump gets slapped in, with an ankle bracelet or in jail, that you are next. Believe that. You are next. Actually, there'll be a group of people before you. I mean, maybe not. I mean, they're arresting grandmas and grandpas from Michigan to Arizona. So, I mean, who knows? All right. So, this is actually, too, a poll of, she did a likely voter sample as well. Trump leads Biden by 18 points. He's at 50 to 32. Biden's approval rating among all Iowans is 28%. Wow. Iowans overwhelmingly believe the country is headed in the wrong direction. There is now no doubt, as we were leading up this entire year. But Rich, the convictions, but how many people won't vote for a felon? But Rich. And there has been a group who has said, there's only two ways this obviously can go. Yes, you're right, and there'll be those people. And I know they're there. The question is how many? How many are there? Because there could be a group who will not vote for Donald Trump because he's a convicted felon, even though they would have voted for him if he wasn't a convicted felon. Those people are going to exist. Again, that is how statistics works. That's how they work. However, is that group so large that it is going to, on net, cancel out or overwhelm the size of the group, or the group that is absolutely furious about this, and in fact is filled with mind changers? Every single poll that we're looking at, you can see the mind changers clear as day, even in Seltzer's poll. These are people who did not vote for Donald Trump and now will. And then also the impact of the persecutions on the turnout of new voters. I'm not talking about new 18-year-old voters, although Trump is clearly benefiting from that. I'm talking about people who are 50 years old and never voted a day in their life. The New York Times sees them. The New York Times has written about them. Article just came out 3 days ago about it. People are finally starting to catch up that for the first time in our lifetimes, the more people who vote, if everyone voted, Joe Biden doesn't have any path to the presidency. The only way Joe Biden can win is if a large group of people who are Trumpers stay home. That is the reverse of what we have always seen in my lifetime in American politics, with the exception of a few blips like Ronald Reagan. It was not bad turnout. And by the way, George Bush got about 3 million Democrats supposedly in 2004. They came out. It's just he won so many of the crossovers. So, I mean, there have been exceptions to the rule, but mostly Republicans are the ones who are sitting home, on election night, hoping turnout's not high, hoping there's not a lot of young people, hoping there's not a lot of new Black or Hispanic voters, hoping there's not a lot of working class people. They want high interest voters who come out, a limited electorate, because they benefited from the likely voter modeling. They benefited from high interest voters making up an outsized share of the electorate. They benefited from white educated voters in certain areas of the country. That's not the case anymore. And that's so significant. People now are starting to catch on. They are. But it's the New York Times, again, just wrote this article about it. I didn't share it. I quote tweeted it, quote tweeted somebody else's post about it on Twitter. It's like this all of a sudden just dawned on them. And this conviction absolutely could have, and it does appear to have had the effect that these people who don't typically vote are going to vote now because they're so pissed. And I'm wondering if that's just icing on the cake, because as you know, during the primary season, if you followed us and followed our work, we had always identified those voters. We called them the Trump or bust voters. We called that group fit into the larger group of Trump or bust voters. They were one group that makes up that larger group. 2 weeks after he was convicted in a New York courtroom and of multiple felony counts, former Republican President Donald Trump still holds a double-digit lead over Democratic incumbent Joe Biden in Iowa. I will remind you that the Des Moines poll in the summer, this far out in 2020, had this a tied race. Eventually, they heard it. I won't say they heard it. Eventually, their numbers reflected reality, a reality that we saw long before her numbers moved. We took Iowa off the board. You can go to bigdatapoll.com and check out the map from 2020 from the election 2020 public polling project, and you will see that Donald Trump had a roughly 9-point lead in the state of Iowa in August, but Ann Selzer did not have that. Ann Sulzer had a tied race. It was only her final poll where she had Trump up by 7. She understated his support just a little bit, but otherwise a good poll. It is very significant. Oh, ditto in 2016. Ditto. Was Trump running stronger than expected in a state like Iowa? He was, and that had been the case for a bit, but you did not see him in the Des Moines poll stretch his legs away from Hillary Clinton until the final Des Moines Register poll when Trump was up by 8. So the fact that Trump is up by 18 right now is remarkable. This is, of course, the Des Moines Register Mediacom poll called the Iowa poll. 50-32 among likely voters. RFK, who says he is qualified for Iowa's presidential ballot, is getting 9%. Now, he says he's qualified. We do not know yet whether RFK is 100% going to be on Iowa's ballot. It is easy to get on Iowa's ballot. However, he's got the worst ballot access operation I have ever seen of someone who has that much money. Another 2% of likely Iowa voters pick Libertarian presidential candidate Chase Oliver. 3% said they would vote for somebody else. 1% would not vote, and 3% are not sure. The results come less than 5 months out from Election Day and before either candidate formally accepts his party's nomination at their respective national conventions this summer. You get what they're doing there? Obviously. This is it. I mean, it's very self-explanatory. There's a reason why I'm starting with this. I think that we have to go over this, and I have to tell you that poll I was just talking about in 16, that final Des Moines Register poll, was widely cited after the election as a warning sign that people did not heed. It portended a strength in the Midwest possessed by Donald Trump that most pundits didn't see until it was over. And they were trying to wade through the rubble that is their collective thoughts. But while I agree that it certainly shows strength with certain groups, the other, because how it was sold was, well, 7 points in Iowa, 8 points in Iowa. We should have known that would have been, that's enough for Wisconsin. That's enough for Michigan. That's enough for Pennsylvania. While Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan have voted together in each of the 8 last presidential elections, with, of course, 1988 being the exception. Wisconsin went for Dukakis. And Wisconsin, by the way, ever since has been slightly more Republican overall. While that is the case, Wisconsin has large swaths, because we always lump those 3 together. But I would say nearly 2/3 of Wisconsin is geographically, not by population, but geographically speaking, by geography, represents Iowa more than it does Michigan or Pennsylvania. There's obviously no Appalachia like there is in Pennsylvania, in either Michigan or Wisconsin, but there's also large parts of Wisconsin that kind of look like the eastern pivot counties. Overall, there are 31 pivot counties in the state of Iowa, and it's very white. But those 31 pivot counties have predicted the election of the last 70 years of presidents. I want to say like 75% of the time. Or not 70 years. Wait. Yeah. Oh my God. It's almost. And 31 of them voted for Barack Obama twice. Then they flipped, went to Trump. They stayed with Trump in 2020. So yeah, they're not perfect indicators. And that's because some of the other surrounding states have gotten less white. Iowa has as well, but it's still largely very white. There's still a lot of working class. There's no real, you have the Des Moines area. You do have universities. you just don't have the equivalent of like a Detroit in Iowa. You don't have the equivalent of a Philadelphia or an Allegheny or Pittsburgh. Because I mean, Allegheny, there actually are some places that demographically do look that way. There are German Catholic areas, settled areas in Iowa. Um, the Protestant vote in Iowa is certainly more Republican than it is in some of these other states. It's a larger evangelical population, but there is a very large, equally when Trump's on the ballot, evangelicals in Wisconsin have been almost the same share as the electorate in Iowa. And by the way, Trump, according to if you believe the exit polls, won evangelicals in Wisconsin by a slightly larger margin than he won them by in Iowa. It's just that there are less of them in Wisconsin, typically, just a little bit. But the rest of the electorate is more diverse. So it definitely gives us a better impact. It's like, this is why let me put it another way and let me make this clear. Wisconsin has areas that are so similar to Iowa that if Donald Trump is winning the state of Iowa by 18 points, there is no chance in hell he's going to lose it, the state of Wisconsin, to Joe Biden. There's just no chance. I'm sorry. But it doesn't mean that Michigan still can't be much closer. It will be. And ditto to Pennsylvania. And I want to get into that. I'm going to run a clip here in a second. But let's read a little bit more and then we'll do that. They also come just weeks after Trump was found guilty. I'm in 34 felony counts. I'm rated to the hush money payment with Stormy Daniels. I mean, they're just going to repeat this over and over again. But the horse race numbers are largely unchanged from February when Trump led Biden 48-33. Actually, that's not true. Trump has increased. Is it marginal? Sure. But it went from Trump plus 15 to Trump plus 18. 15% back then said they would vote for someone else. Folks, if you look at Trump's vote share in 2020 compared to this poll, some of the undecideds are going to go for him. He's going to end up a little bit higher than the vote share he got in 2020, and Biden's going to end up far lower. That's the story. So, I mean, yes, if you look at it from the bird's eye, or not bird's eye, excuse me. If you look at it from a glance and you just consider, well, sampling error is rich, and that's true. It is. After a felony conviction, 34 felony counts, you would not expect him to go from 15 to 18. So I guess we can finally put to bed this idea that in the Electoral College anyway, there's going to be this massive chunk of voters who will not vote for a felon. And that's it. It's going to hurt him. The other side who said that there is more because of course we didn't know and could not know for sure, but there was always more evidence. There was, there were always more anecdotes, which are all data is anecdotal, by the way. All anecdotes are data. But there was so many more attributes and anecdotes pointing to the possibility or the likelihood that this would actually or could actually help Trump. And the reason now why I'm kind of wondering, and it goes with the cover of the title of the show and the cover art, like we could be understating this man again if Ann Seltzer's right in Iowa. We could be. Why is that? Because Trump's issue right now, and I don't want to even call it an issue because it may not even be an issue. He's doing much better with non-whites. It just doesn't look like in the polling, in some polling, he's doing as well with white voters, particularly seniors, than he could do. And in fact, there's an article right now, I believe it's in the Wall Street Journal, but it's on the top of Real Clear Politics. You can go check it out. It's Biden's secret weapon, seniors. Now, we talked about this on Friday. Biden polled better than he performed with seniors in 2020. The New York Times poll had Joe Biden winning seniors 50-44. Joe Biden lost seniors. In special election settings and in off-cycle settings, seniors have been voting pretty favorably for Democrats. But that's with a certain kind of voter coming out. Seniors vote at the highest rate is it possible that there are seniors who are presidential level voters, and that is why Trump underperforms in the polls, what he actually performs with seniors on election day? And those seniors are white. So maybe Trump does even better with white voters than he typically has done in 16 or 20. He gets back those white voters he supposedly lost. I don't know how you lose voters when you add 7 million votes, but let's play along and pretend. When you do that, and you add the non-white coalition, it's very clearly real. No one's even disputing it anymore. Is it possible that like Michigan is not that close? And I don't want to like say, I'm saying and I don't want you to get, if like you're a Republican out there, I'm not trying to get you complacent or anything like that. I'm simply saying that the problem pollsters have had and why they understate Trump's support is not related to demographics that favor Democrats. And given that, plus the realignment that's clearly happening, isn't it worth, or isn't it honest, is a better way to put it, isn't it honest to at least acknowledge that he may be further ahead than we think? Even then, like, when we're polling, we get a 2-point lead. And that looks like and sounds like a close race. But, come election day, he wins by like a strong 3.5. And Biden was never able to close the gap. And everyone can see it as the results are coming in. And if Michigan's 3.5, maybe he wins Pennsylvania by 4.5. Maybe Wisconsin is like a solid 6 points. Iowa is 18 points. And Florida is not competitive, man. These people like Scaramucci, it's like there's almost no bottom. There is no bottom for these people. Oh, I'm telling you, Trump's in danger of losing Florida. Bro, shut the up. You are so pathetic. Lie to people because you can't stand a guy and he excommunicated you. Because you're a fucking leech of society. Give me a break. Florida's close. Your mama's close. Anyway, isn't it worth entertaining that? Let's play this clip. What is it? 12:57. I'm going to have to take a break here in a couple minutes. Let's play this clip and let's roll this clip. We'll take the break after we come back. But you tell me, coupled with what we just were talking about, if what he's saying, and he seems worked up about it, if what he's saying is true, not only is it fair and honest to, consider this, isn't that the most likely scenario? Wouldn't the fact that we're probably understating, wouldn't that be the most likely scenario, considering past is not always prologue, but we know from, this is inside the numbers. You come here to learn about polling. We're not missing certain races. And by we, I'm kind of taking the blame I don't deserve here, but I'm saying we as in pollsters. I'm not missing them. I haven't missed them, but others have. They're Republican or Trumplican constituencies. There's never really been an instance of, we understated the Democratic presidential candidate because we understated white educated voters. No. Gallup did understate a Democratic constituency in 2012, but it wasn't white educated voters or non-college whites. This is the turnout rate among black women. That's really what did it for Barack Obama. All right, let's play this clip and then think about it as you're hearing it. Think about it.
Look at this change in the vote. All right, this is the polls at this point among his.
And that is the wrong one. Hang tight. This is
senior data reporter Harry Enton is with us. So where does the race stand among African-American voters right now?
Yeah, I keep looking for this to change, to go back to a historical norm. And it simply put, has not yet. So this is the margin, or Biden and Trump among black.
You just said, no, I mean, I know we got a commercial break coming. I just wanted to say, I am too. I am too. I have been too. I totally feel you, Harry. I have been waiting for this to return to what we normally see. However, we're in June now. It's June. It's June 17th. It's been a year almost. And in truth, it has been more than a year. This has been a trend that Trump has been chipping away at in selective geographic locations, more so than others. Same thing with Hispanics. He's been chipping away. So it's not like this is brand new. He did better with younger black voters in 2020 in certain areas. He did. He did better nationwide than he did in 16. But like the trend is there. When exactly would we expect this to reverse? It is not 1988 anymore. Everybody knows everything about these people. I just don't know, like, when, what date, what time, what event. Are we seriously doing the Labor Day thing still? That had no impact in 22, 20, 18. So when are the polls going to change?
Voters compare where we were at this point in 2020, compare where we are now. You know, at this point, look at this. In 2020, Joe Biden was getting 86% of the African American vote. Look at where it is now. It's 70%. That's a 16-point drop, John. And more than that, it's not just that Joe Biden is losing ground. It's that Donald Trump is gaining ground.
Right. 16-point decline for Joe Biden and a 14-point increase for Donald Trump, making a difference of 2 points that could probably either go back to Joe Biden or go to a third-party candidate. That's what you're seeing there. It is not simply that Joe Biden is losing support, as we heard some people say on Fox Business repeatedly during the primary, in response to these polls, by the way, who now want back in Trump's orbit because their horse didn't make it to the finish line. You know who you are, girl. It was your job to go out there and say, this is just Biden collapsing. Trump isn't actually gaining. That was so false. And that is like a double whammy, because why? That limits the potential percentage of voters who will return home to Joe Biden. They're not saying they're undecided. They're not saying that at all. They're saying, I am not voting for Joe Biden this time. That's a problem. If Joe Biden was at 70 and Trump was still at like 10%, I would tell you, expect these voters to come home. And like Harry, I've been waiting for something just because it's so ingrained in my mind. I've been a pollster all of these years. I've seen Republicans look like they're going to do better with non-whites, and then either it revert back to what it normally is, or, it just doesn't happen. But it never was numbers like this. Never. But you can go back and look, and you can look at the record. When those, what was believed to be opportunities, when they arose for Republicans, it wasn't, I voted Democrat last time and now I'm voting Republican. I mean, yeah, sure, there were some, that's the way it works. Most of those people were just simply saying, I'm undecided, I don't know. And then they went home. As they, for the election, they went home. Meaning they voted for their guy. That is not what's happening here. That's not happening here. These people are saying, I voted for Trump. I voted for Biden in 20. Now I'm voting for Trump. And that is a huge problem for Joe Biden. And again, before I let this run, if Iowa is 18 and there are similar demographics in Wisconsin, right? And obviously it's the Midwest. There are some similar demographics in surrounding states. Minnesota, by the way, although Minnesota has a more liberal white population because it's got more Scandinavian population of ethnicity than even Wisconsin does. But Wisconsin's more Norwegian, while Minnesota has more Finns and Swedes, and Finns and Swedes are more liberal. Norwegians are more, I can't say Republican because that's not true. Norwegians are more Trumpy. They're more Trumplican than Swedes and Finns. We're certainly more liberal, which is why, by the way, I mean, there's a huge settlement in northwestern Wisconsin, what we call lumberjack country. There are large pockets of Scandinavian voters there. That's why Bayfield, Douglas, that's why they're still blue in a sea of red. All right. But again, imagine this. I mean, what we're hearing right now with the non-white, which also is certainly in areas of Wisconsin, but more so even in Michigan and Pennsylvania. If this is the case with those non-white voters, and we just are kind of marginally understating Trump's support among white voters, and Ann Seltzer's poll is like some kind of like canary in the coal mine about that, then I submit that Trump is potentially likely even further ahead than we think he is. Now, it's possible that's not the case. Sure, it is. But the most likely is that he's probably being understated here. All right, let's go.
You go from 7%, single digits at this point in 2020, to now 21%. And again, John, I keep looking for signs that this is going to go back to normal, and I don't see it yet in the polling. If anything, right now we're careening towards a historic performance for Republican presidential candidate, the likes of which we have not seen in 6 decades.
And when you dig into this number here, what is the makeup of that number?
This is where we get very interesting. So I decided to dive deeper into the crosstabs, figure out where is it that Joe Biden is truly struggling among black voters. All right, so this.
All right, now you're going to hear what we have been saying forever. There is an enormous difference in age, and we had an entire episode on this. All right, and we've been talking, I mean, there have been many episodes about it, but there was one episode where we actually just totally zeroed in on this and focused in on it. And when we get back from the break, I may even just open up Mark and Sight on the fly and let's do some nesting. We could do that together right now. And we'll make a variable with black voters. We'll do 18 to 29, 30 to 44, 45 to 64, 65 plus, and we will look at the vote preference. And I'm telling you, you're going to see it. You're going to see what I'm talking about.
Black voters, Biden versus Trump margin. Look at black voters age 50 and older, and you'll see, look, Joe Biden was leading amongst this group at this point by 83 points back in 2020. Now it's 74 points. So, yeah, a slight decline in that margin, but nothing out of this world. Look at black voters under the age of 50. Holy cow, folks. Holy cow. Look at this. Joe Biden was up by 80 points among this group back at this point in 2020. Look at where that margin has careened down towards. It's now just, get this, 37 points. That lead has dropped by more than half, Mr. Berman. I just never seen anything like this. I'm like speechless because you always look at history and you go, okay, this is a historic moment. If this polling is anywhere near correct, we are looking at a historic moment right now where black voters under the age of 50, which have historically been such a big part of the Democratic coalition, are leaving it in droves.
That is a huge drop over a 4-year period, at least right now. All right, what's the impact of third-party candidacies here, Robert Kennedy Jr.?
Yeah, so, all right, so obviously we have third-party candidates this year with the two major party candidates being so disliked. All right, so this is black voters, Biden versus Trump in the battleground states. This was according to a poll last month from the New York Times, Siena College. Again, looks very similar to what we see nationally, right? Joe Biden at 63, a very poor position for a Democratic candidate. Donald Trump at 23%. If we add Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to this, look at where Joe Biden drops to. Less than half the vote among black voters. Less than half the vote among black voters in the battleground states. Donald Trump drops as well to 14%, so not quite nearly as historic. But look at this, RFK with 11%. You basically have a legitimate sort of three-way race here. Yeah, Joe Biden well ahead. but with less than 50% of the vote. John, I never thought I would see something like this among black voters.
And for those questioning who Robert Kennedy would hurt more, at least in these numbers, in this measurement right here, Biden loses 14, Trump loses 9. So it's clearly Joe Biden.
It's exactly right. It seems to me this is, yes, it's partially a artifact of Donald Trump perhaps being better liked among black voters, but it's also a real artifact of Joe Biden being significantly less liked among black voters than he was 4 years ago.
Harry, great to see you. Thank you very much. Sarah?
Okay, so I'm looking at some regroupings right now, actually, and it is what I thought. Even though this last poll was a little bit more, the 18 to 29, when you break them up, 18 to 24, 25 to 29. Harry, of course, is doing like below 45, which I could do. I just don't think we have time to do it on the show live. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. But it's still, you can see the trend and you can see it very clearly. But we will do that when we come back from the break. So don't forget, you're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. If you like the video, don't forget to like them, smash the like button, and share them far and wide. Subscribe. All right. And if you are on YouTube, mosey on over to Rumble, sign up there as well and like it there. It's a huge help. But of course, the best place to follow us is what's on the screen on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. All right, let's get into some of these breaks. And when we come back, we will look at that broken down by age. All right. So listen, folks, we don't have a healthcare system in this country. We have a sick care system. Pharmaceutical companies make billions. That's billions with a B. Every single year off of sick Americans, which means Big Pharma needs you to be sick. They need you to be relying on them. And just like Big Pharma, Big Government wants you to feel powerless about it. Like they're in control and you need them to protect you. We talk about this all the time. I'm a referee. I'm an arbiter of justice, right? The option? Yeah, okay. No thanks. So where can we push back? How can we do that? And we talk about this with Robert all the time, the 4 freedoms poll. We become self-reliant and take back control of our health with the wellness company's medical emergency kit. That's what it does. It's designed by elite doctors like Dr. Peter McCullough and Dr. Drew Pinsky. These prescription kits have emerged as a keystone of many Americans' family emergency preparedness plans, saving thousands of dollars in unplanned hospital visits. Our household has 2 of them. Dr. Peter McCullough has been preaching the importance of early intervention and treatment since 2020, and that message won't change. Early treatment is paramount to a timely recovery for any illness. So be ready for the next thing when the wellness company's medical emergency kit, containing 8 life-saving drugs, including ivermectin, amoxicillin, Z-Pak, plus a guidebook to aid in the safe use of these life-saving medications. This kit is prescription only. You can't find anything like it in a store or a pharmacy, and every American should have at least one in their home. Ordering your kit takes less than 2 minutes and couldn't be simpler. Go to twc.health/TPP. That's what you see on the screen. And the link is also in the description to the video. That's twc.health/TPP. And use that code TPP. That'll purchase your kit for 10% off and get you free shipping. So whether it's the bird flu, monkeypox, COVID, cyber attacks, drugstore shortages, you'll have what you need no matter what. It's just good peace of mind. Safeguard your health today by going to twc.health/TPP. Use that code at checkout to save. And I am sorry about this, but kits are only available in the US of A. Again, every kit at house needs one. Laura and I have 2. All right. And financial freedoms, financial crisis, right? Oh, health crisis, health freedoms. It all comes down to what we talk about here on the show. And we're like really lucky to have great sponsors like this that have synergy with what we are always discussing. And I mentioned before, foreclosures are skyrocketing. Consumer sentiment cratered. It's ugly. So it's really no surprise that people are flocking to safer places or looking for more safe places and diversification when it comes to their money. Stocks can be unpredictable. And let's face it, inflation can really impact the value of currencies. And that's why you really need to check out one of our sponsors, Freedom Gold USA, if you haven't already. If you've been thinking or you've thought about investing in gold or silver, or maybe you just want to diversify your investment portfolio, which is wise. Freedom Gold USA is definitely a company that you need to check out. And what I like about Freedom Gold USA is that they really are all about helping you make smart investment choices in precious metals. They believe the more you know, the better. So they can offer you free investment guides, consultations. They just want to give you the information you need to make confident decisions. No pressure, no hard sell. That's not the only thing that's different. They'll guarantee competitive pricing on some of the best quality and purity gold and silver you can find. You know you're getting a solid deal, and you don't have to worry about any extra fees. They offer free shipping and insurance on all orders. Plus, you might even get some free silver on qualifying purchases. They'll give you $500 in a credit towards opening a gold or silver IRA. That's a nice bonus. And here's the best part. Again, dealing with Freedom Gold USA is simple and it's hassle-free. You don't get any pushy sales tactics. They're just about helping you make the right decision to reach your financial goals in a way that works for you. So if you want to learn more, I recommend giving Freedom Gold a call. The number is on the screen right now, 888-279-3592. Or you could check out their website. That's just for the People's Pundit, freedomgoldusa.com/rich. Find out about all the latest special offers they have there. See what kind of deals you may qualify for. Let me give you the number again. 888-279-3592. 888-279-3592. Or go to the link, which is in the description, the website, freedomgoldusa.com/rich. Don't wait. Give them a call today and get started on securing that financial future. All right. All right. Let me bring up MarketSite. Let me show you. I know it's small. Bear with me. I didn't have any time to make, really, you don't need to. Crosstabs are better. Graphics are great and everything for just like kind of showing you, like a bird's eye thing. What's up, gorgeous? What's up, gorgeous? Playing a clip of Harry Anton. Black voters by age. It's like people are starting to come around. They're starting to see what we've been talking about for what, a year? And then also, for the first time in my lifetime, having a larger turnout, a larger electorate. The New York Times ran a piece a couple of days ago. If everybody turned out, Joe Biden has no chance to win the presidency. If everybody turned out. Trump's margin among these people who don't vote is so big, he would get creamed. This is why it pisses me off, frankly, when I hear Republicans say, oh, it's not possible. It's too much. They only had this. He gave you the wrong one. Or did they charge you too much? Okay. I just didn't want you to get charged and then screw you, All right. Yeah. So if everybody did turn out, the Republican whining all the time, like they're gonna cheat. They just talked about nothing we can do about it.
The vote would go
Well,
down.
it would be wait. And I read something the other day, like too big to rig is not like good enough. It's not a thing. Yeah, it is. You want to see the numbers? We can go over the voter file together. Like it is a thing. Do you Georgia, by the way, because I thought the Midwest was bad, Laura. Georgia has such a large number of no prop voters. There are people living in those mountains in northern Georgia that are totally off the grid. There are people who are living in central and southern Georgia, used to be, by the way, working class Democrat votes, totally off the grid. Hundreds of thousands of people. And just poof, they're never there. 7 million low prop targets in Michigan alone. I mean, 1.7, excuse me. Sorry. 1.7. Yeah. Well, I was thinking of the total. I was thinking of the total number and that thing we did, which is, by the way, think about that: 7 million nationally that are easy targets.
That's low fruit.
That's low hanging fruit. He would have won the popular vote in 2020 if we would have got them. All right, so let's look at black voters by age.
By the way, I got the wrong date. So she's here till 4.
You went all the way there for nothing. I love you. Listen, think I don't do special stuff sometimes? I got nothing. I got no leg to stand on. Don't feel bad. I do some dumb crap. All right, let me show you what I'm talking about with this. In the prior survey we did, it was actually much, much clearer. But it's still overall, if I was to do 45 and down and, below 45 and 45 and up, you would see it very clearly. And that's what Harry Enton was doing, because obviously why? Some sampling errors for subgroups are higher. So when you break down some of these very specific age details, like 18 to 29 with black voters, you're only talking about 73 people. And with 30 to 44, you're talking about 81. But then, by the way, look at that right there. You can see that. What is 30 to 44, right? Well, they're voting for Biden 63 to 36.7. 36.7. Now look at 65 plus. Among African Americans, that is a textbook Democratic margin. The 65 plus. Do you guys see it? 91.3 to 8.7. There's literally 2 black voters over the age or 65 and above, 2 out of 2,000 who said they were going to vote for Donald Trump. Now that compares to 53 who are under the age of 45. And by the way, that huge chunk of the electorate, 45 to 64, that margin for Joe Biden is only 75.2 to 24.8. I mean, I just put my legs up, kick my legs up, man, and take a nap and ponder this or something. This doesn't happen. This has not happened since Richard Nixon. Before, really, because you had the Civil Rights Act passed, and it wasn't totally clear who was the pro-Civil Rights Party, because, of course, you had a president. And by the way, the media would love for you to not know that, but that is the case. The Democratic president, of course, signed it, but he relied on Republican votes because Al Gore's daddy and other racist friends in the Democratic Party were not cool with the bill. In fact, Al Gore's father held the record until Rand Paul beat it. Or was it Rand Paul or was it Ted Cruz? Somebody beat it over Obamacare. But before that, the longest filibuster ever held in the U.S. Senate was led by Al Gore's dad, and it was against the Civil Rights Act. Lyndon Johnson needed to lean on Republicans to get the Civil Rights Act passed. So when Richard Nixon was president, yes, there were Democratic connections to the black community through civil rights leaders. There were, even though they hated people like Malcolm X. I don't really know how else to break this to you, but Democrats used the FBI to kill Malcolm X. That, yes, there were people, Nation of Islam, who killed Malcolm X. That is true. And I don't know if you've looked into this, but the FBI prodded a known psychopath. First of all, he's not only a murderer, but he was a sexual assault, multiple repeat offenses, rapist. And they prodded him to lead the Newark chapter with supposedly two other people. That's the official story. It looks like they had nothing to do with it whatsoever. They framed those men so that you would not find out about the connection between the actual shotgun man and the FBI, who, by the way, ran free in the streets of Newark until the day he died, hanging out with Cory Booker, the lieutenant governor of the state of New Jersey, actually went to his funeral. He had a youth center. You walk around there, people will say he was a changed man. But the real murder of Malcolm X was an FBI stooge. It was in the Nation of Islam. Democrats used the feds to kill black leaders and to extort them, or try to extort them. Martin Luther King didn't go for it. That's why his wife got a tape of him nailing another broad. Sorry. That's the real truth. And it's so cushy. We hear all these cushy versions of history. I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of it. It's not true. It's fake. It's a construct meant for you to sit there and hug yourself in a flag while you think they're doing nothing wrong. I'm not doing it anymore. They're murderers and liars. And the highest form of patriotism is calling out your own government when they are, in fact, murderers and liars, or they're just wrong. They're just flat out wrong. Don't accept the award, or we're going to send you the tape. Send your wife the tape. This is a guy who cross-dressed every Saturday. You got to be kidding me. I just got to cool down before I say something else. Anyway, where am I going with this? It's still very clear in the minds of older African Americans. Very clear. The Civil Rights era, the John Lewises, who used Martin Luther King as a springboard to get to be where he was before his death. Decades of life in politics, praised as a hero. Another guy, I'm not going to Trump's inauguration because he's illegitimate. He's a puppet of Vladimir Putin. I've seen the intelligence. He's illegitimate. He stole the election from Hillary Clinton. John was still alive. You could ask him, you think you're a good leader of the black community? How did that work out for you? Black Americans were opening small businesses at a rate never before seen in this country under Donald Trump. Now, they're serfs again. And the younger African-American voter in this country is so friggin' tired of it, they're going to vote for Donald Trump. If I had to make a best guess today, how much of the black vote Donald Trump is going to get, I would say that at this point, I think modestly 15% is a modest estimate. Most polls have them in the 20s. I'm operating under the assumption that we're overstating it just a little bit. Sampling errors for subgroups are higher. And Republicans don't have a turnout operation in black neighborhoods, which Trump is trying to do. I don't know if you know this. Glenn Greenwald posted something the other day. Oh my God, Donald Trump really is reaching, trying to mobilize black voters. Yes, he is. He's running ads on black radio in very key areas of the country. He's trying to circumvent, sell out community leaders who have stuffed their pockets with Democratic cash for years while their communities suffered. Yeah, Sharptons of the world don't give two pricks about the black community or the experience in the American ghetto and how to get out of it. They don't care. They care about the fundraisers they get to throw for their organizations. And by the way, I've never met him, but I have heard that Jesse Jackson is actually a very nice man and he's earnest. Yes, he can do things that are reprehensible in order to do what he believes anyway, as it's been described to me. It's just playing the political game. He's playing the game he has, and that's not really the real Jesse. I'm serious. This is what I've heard. And that may be true. I just wish he didn't do it because the black community is no better for it, are they? Are they? Labor force participation, the highest it's ever been under the Trump administration. Or the highest it's been in modern era, really. Before the Great Society, do you know what the labor force participation rate of the black community was? Higher than whites. If you want to know that percentage, pick up Our Virtuous Republic. Now, it's a book from like 2013 I wrote, barely anybody read. But it's true. We look at it back then. And the whole point is the relationship that they want to do this because the weaker each individual community is, the larger the role for the federal government is. I would say the more the justification for that's probably the better way to explain it. But the weaker we are community by community, the greater the justification for a larger role in the federal government, especially the federal government. Now, does it help? Does it end up fulfilling that promise? It most certainly does not. But that's what happens when you forget the clause of your own social contract. They're just doing what you would expect them to do, which is exploit it. Because that is the nature of the balance between tyranny and freedom and liberty. Anyway, I think it's very clear. You can see it here. Let's take a look at Hispanics, actually. There is a similar trend with Hispanics. Look at this. 81.2% of Hispanics who are over 65 years old are voting for Joe Biden. Only 18.8% are voting for Donald Trump. Very small sample here, so I don't want to get it twisted. But I do think that's very interesting. You know what? Let's do this, guys. We got time. Let's do this. Cancel. Yeah, it's not going to save it, and that's fine with me. Let's go to, nope, sorry. Let's go to variables. Okay, cool. Let me find age, and I know it's, bear with me. We're going to go down to age. Here's age specific, right? What do I mean by that? By the way, does any other pollster, this guy can take this stupid scorecard and stick it up his ass. He's irrelevant. Nobody knows who the hell he is anymore, and nobody cares who he is anymore. How pathetic. Even the website that you've been fired from now aggregates this loser. Anyway, you'll never see a pollster ever do what I do. They will never open up the books like I just do. I am doing and have done myriad times. This is age specific, the variable, meaning, of course, what? That is the specific age of the voter. All right. So what we're going to do here is, I just wanted to show you that. We're going to do what's called a regrouping variable. Okay. And we're going to create a new one. And we're going to do we'll call it age simplified. Okay. Is that cool? And make sure there's a description there so people know if it's on a row what that is. Do you guys like age simplified? I'm trying to think of something. Age, we could say binary simplified. Because what I'm going to do is voters below 45 and voters 45 and above. All right. So we could do age 2 categories. You want to do that? Or age simplified? What do you guys like better? Locals, what do you like better? Age simplified or age 2 categories? And just to give you some background, the AP Votecast, they do like education 2 categories. So I you know me, I like to stay consistent with exit polls, although Votecast is a little bit different than those exit polls. So what do you think here? I'm not seeing any typing. Give me your thoughts. What do you think? And maybe I need to refresh because that happens to me sometimes. So let me do that. I'm thinking, personally, I like age simplified. Why? Because the other one is age detail, age specific, and then just age. All right. So I'm thinking I like that. You know what I mean? Who the hell is this? No, I'm not doing that tonight. Absolutely not. No. Not the day after Father's Day. And I got a million polling things to do. We got a public polling project. He's going to have to reschedule. And that's another thing. People are going to have to reschedule for when I actually do my own poll. I'm not commenting over anybody's polls. I'm not going on someone else's show to talk about someone else's poll. They can wait until the press release goes out and then they can call. I'm serious, man. Anyway, why? Because you know what, folks? We need to push the public polling project, right? Isn't that the point? I don't really see the point in going all over Carney. I don't want to be famous. I'm not a fame junkie. I'm trying to get attention to the project, but I'm not, that's just not who I am. All right. Yeah, let's go with simplified. So we're going to call this 18 to 44. Okay. What does that mean? We go in the predecessor range. So it's looking from, because we're using age specific as a foundation variable. Okay, so we're just going to do 18 to 44. We're going to call it 18 to 44, and we're going to tell it, look for all ages that are 18 and then to 44. And then we're going to make another one. Very simple. 45 plus. All right. And we're going to do 45 to 100. All right. Because I think that is the last variable, right? 100 is it's actually between 92, but okay. So what does that mean? Can you see it? The values, it says the values are between 18 and 92. So the youngest voter is 18, or in our case, actually, they will be 18 and eligible by the time of the election. And then, of course, we give them option to choose whatever age they are, as old as they need to, within reason of expected life expectancy rates. And they get, in this case, the oldest one who took the survey was 92. All right, so we're going to do 100 anyway, just to do it because I'm used to doing it, and that's the way. So if I want to rename it, we can always rename it, but I'm thinking age simplified is the way to go here. So we're going to make it. Now, when you go down, you see it here, RV age simplified. It's a regrouping variable, and now it's in the system. Let's go to crosstabs. Let's go back to the poll. I didn't save it, so it's not there. We're going to edit it. Age and age detail. Let's go back to, did I put it in survey demographics? I believe I did. You got to make sure it's categorized correctly. All right, so age simplified. It always does this, man. It's getting a little bit difficult. There we go. Perfect. Let's save it. And let's close it. Why am I doing this? Because sampling errors for subgroups are higher. Okay. And I want to see if we can make sure that's cool. First and foremost, I'm just curious about something. Okay. For now, let's nest it, and I'll take back the nesting when we're done. I'm going to nest race below age. Now we update it. And now we close it so we can re-up. We're going to do age simplified by race. Okay, perfect. So now here we have African Americans who are 18 to 44 years old and African Americans who are 45 to 65. And that 45 to 64 was actually more pro-Trump than I expected it to be. So, it may look a little bit weaker for Biden than you would expect. That 65 plus was like a traditional Democratic margin. And I got to tell you, in prior polls, I've looked at this. I look at every time. In prior polls, I have seen that 65 plus nested with age, nested with race, 65 African American variable. I've seen that 100 to 0. I'm not kidding. Who did you vote for? Who will you vote for? I've seen that 100 to 0. All right. Now, what's interesting is who's more likely to vote, right? And this is something the Trump campaign's got to look at in very, very good detail. All right. They need to take this to heart. And this is what Joe Biden and the Democrats are hoping will happen. Wayne Dupree, my brother from another mother, and we still, our thoughts and prayers are with him. He did lose his mother recently. Wonderful woman you love, she's just wonderful, wonderful people. They have, he used to always say to me, Rich, there's a big difference between black voters and the black vote. And that there are so many black voters who, if you could get them to vote, would support Republicans. They would. But there's no outreach. There's no get out the vote. There's no effort to mobilize and develop relationships, personal relationships with them. So Democrats, it looks like black voters, black people overall are almost monolithically Democrats or supporters of the Democratic Party. But in reality, that's not really true. It's just that that's who votes. He's long said this. This is something Republicans and Trump really need to take a look at. 18 to 44 black voters are far less likely to be certain to vote. Only 54% said they are certain to vote. Yeah, another 34% said that they were likely, meaning the odds are greater than 50-50. But look at the 65 or 45 and above black voter. 82% likely. 82% certain to vote, with another 12% saying they are likely. There's quite literally just over double of the percentage of black voters who are unlikely to vote that are young and below the age of 45 than there are black voters who are 45 and above. You see 7.6 unlikely to vote, compared to 3.4. All right. And then certain not to vote, by the way, is even more significant, obviously. Even though we're getting into smaller things now, but still, it's 7-3, a 7-3 ratio. All right, so let's move it on. As you can see here, African Americans that are older, that is technically like Joe Biden's margin. That is his margin from 2020. So that's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Encouraging. And then you have younger black voters who are the most likely to lie about who they voted for in 2020. Now, we know Trump did better with them, but they did not do this good. So where is that coming from? People think back, and if they're truly persuadable, or they have already been persuaded, right, and they're in the middle of a swing or a realignment, they will lie about voting for that president. So in 2012, there were a ton of people who lied about voting for Barack Obama, even though we wound up winning anyway. It was not like this. Like, what the position Joe Biden's in is much, 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 much worse. Even those who say, when it came to Barack Obama, we were talking about like no more than 8%, about 6%. And that's the entire electorate, not one group, the entire electorate who were, susceptible to that question and suspected of lying. Okay. Biden's approval with younger voters that are who are black is obviously a little bit worse. It's not god awful, but that strongly approved number is several points less than voters who are above 45, and the somewhat approved number is several points less. And when you add it together, we were talking about the gains in that Harry Enton video. That's about the gain that you're seeing Trump make. So while Joe Biden has lost support and is now at about 70% in the poll that Enton was going over, Trump not only is benefiting from that, but he actually gained about 13. That is close when you combined it. We're at about 10. So very, 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 very close. And you can see it in you can see it in the approval rating. You can, or you can see some of them at least, right? All right, so now we're here to Biden versus Trump. Big difference. So 27.7% of African American voters who are below the age of 45 are going to vote for Donald Trump. 55% only for Joe Biden. That is a big, big deal. And if we did 65 plus, by the way, you would have seen an even bigger disparity. This is very clearly, I don't want to say it's about age, because it's not. It's not about age. It is about memory, though, and memory loss and social pressures. Let's be honest. And I know we're coming and winding down here. Republicans have an opportunity to counter the social bias campaign that Democrats waged the minute Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton. And that was an effort to shame white women specifically in this country. Shame them. And really, shame anybody, of course, who supports Trump, but they targeted white, specifically in the suburbs, and the more educated, the better. They targeted those groups specifically and shamed them with a social bias campaign I've never seen in my life. Everything from comedy shows on Netflix, new series that come out on television, references in movies, right? All geared toward these women, right? All in these acts or entertainment shows that they watch, right? And the entire point was to make them think that no white, affluent, moral, suburban woman would vote for a guy like Donald Trump. You have to be decent. It's about decency. Don't you want to return decency to the White House? He's not, Joe Biden's a decent man. Joe Biden has the decency to care about this, that, the other. I mean, you must have heard that word a million times. That is because that was like the closing argument of the social bias campaign that had started to wage the minute that Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton. And it evolved into something massive. Well, what I'm saying is this. Republicans now have an enormous opportunity to turn that around. And it would be almost somewhat dirty to do, but I don't give a damn. If I was them, I would do it. What kind of a moron votes for a guy with dementia who shits his pants in public? How stupid do you have to be to vote for a guy with dementia? How dumb do you have to be to vote for a guy like Joe Biden? There is a natural recoil. And it almost doesn't matter what your ideology is. There's a natural recoil to the concept of voting for a mentally incompetent president. It's dangerous to vote for a man who's not in control of his own facilities and bodily movements, bodily functions. He can't control his bowel movements, but he's going to control the country and the world. Come on, folks. This stuff writes itself. And the point is not to make it some like super, wonky ad that drives the point home. It's a social bias. So when Auntie says, what? No nephew of mine is voting for a Republican, let alone Donald Trump. Because, of course, older black voters do that to younger black voters. He can just say, I'd rather vote for Donald Trump than someone who shits his pants all day, Auntie. If he can't control his bowels, how's he going to control global instability? How's he, this writes itself. It's so easy. It's not even funny. Younger kids passing around memes. My son shows me all the time. It takes less than 24 hours before Joe Biden falls asleep at a D-Day event before my son has a meme that he's showing me. And by the way, all his gamer friends are passing around in their like group chats, laughing at Joe Biden. And then you wonder how some of this younger vote is shifting. For once, Republicans, I don't want to say Republicans, for once, Democrats, shit. Let me put this as simply as I can. In some respects, Trump has made being a Republican cool again. It's that simple. Because it is certainly not cool to support a guy who shits his pants. It is certainly not cool to support a guy who faces the wrong direction when he's standing for the national anthem. It is certainly not cool to support a guy who cannot string together a coherent sentence, let alone two or three of them, into a cohesive thought. And it's just too easy to mock. Whether it's mean or not, it's totally irrelevant. Is it not mean to fabricate allegations that a candidate used a racial slur 25 years ago on the set of a show? Is it nice or is it mean to make up hoaxes like the Very Fine People hoax or the Bloodbath hoax? Point being, to hell with them. Oh, let's get in the mud, Rich. You want to win? Get down, little piggy. I don't know what to tell you. I'm so sick of the high road people convincing voters to lose. You be the happy, clean loser. I think voters want to win. And frankly, that's not in the mud. You want to see in the mud? Thomas Jefferson accused John Adams of being a hermaphrodite. He was behind those smears. Give me a break. There were cartoons circulating in pamphlets, entire pamphlet sections going on and on about, you know what? Here are all the reasons why John Adams could be a hermaphrodite. It happened. It happened. So simply pointing out that Joe Biden is now so senile, he's basically mentally retarded, is a low blow. Give me a break. And while you're at it, slap the Kamala Harris thing on there. Of course. Telling you, they'll think that's funny. Just want to share this before we start to wrap this up. And actually, David is 100% correct. I just saw David Giglio's tweet. He's 100% correct. Let me read this to you as we're going over this Iowa thing, right? As we did. Iowa wasn't a, quote, red state, unquote, until Trump. It was universally considered a battleground and was won by Obama. Trump made Iowa and Ohio red. The amount of cope pretending this isn't the case and that the Trump plus 18 poll from Iowa's premier pollster isn't catastrophic for Biden is off the charts. It's unbelievable what these people will say to satisfy their Trump derangement syndrome. And again, how do you combat that? The social bias campaigns, otherwise known as social pressure, because you need to give these non-white Trumplicans, you need to give them social cover. Because believe me, when the church finds out they're voting for Biden, they're going to hear it. I mean, they're voting for Trump. They're going to hear it. And absolutely, positively, it's not even a question. Ohio and Iowa would be much closer if Republicans went back to the party of Mitt Romney instead of the more populist brand of Donald Trump. And part of his Midwest appeal is attitudinal. It is. It helps him in some of the burbs of Detroit with the auto workers. It can hurt him with some Finns and Swedes in northwestern Wisconsin, there's no doubt. Certainly in large areas of Minnesota, right? You have these sayings, Wisconsin and Minnesota nice, right? But then that very same attitude is going to help him in places of Iowa where there are, these huge groups of evangelicals that you just would not think would accept Trump as their champion. But they do. The Bob Vanderplats of the world do not represent the evangelical community. That's a happy loser right there. And boy, ever did he lose when he went for governor. It's a perfect example how to go back to being blue. Guy got speaking of universally, guy got universally rebuked. He was thrashed. Nobody wants the Pat Robert days to return. That's the truth. I'm sorry. Even they don't want it to return. They like their new brand of evangelicalism. They like it. Why take it away? Not to mention the cultural evangelicals that don't even show up on those. Except unless you word it like we word it. Because Barnes and I knew that to be the case. All right. Anyway, so yeah, there it is. Also asking if we're in the field. We're not in the field yet. We're so close. Very, very, very close. I don't mind polling during the week if I have to. I do, however, prefer polling on the weekend. So, of course, the public polling project is in the description. Do what you can. Share it, share it, share it, share it. And I will do my part. These little appearances everywhere are going to have to include the pushing of the public polling project, or else I simply will not do them anymore. All right. All right. So with that in mind, again, we'll have a makeup session for the book club, although we're motoring through this book. All right. So if you're not a supporter on Locals or a member, you have a membership on YouTube, you should go ahead and do that immediately if you want to join the book club. We're going to have the authors on when we're done with the book. It's going to be fun. All right. We have done this over and over and over, and we may read, speaking of Ohio and that area of the Midwest, we may read something like the Almanac, the Ohio Almanac. I don't know. There's several things I have mulling in my mind right now. What is the appropriate follow-up for the emerging series, which of course started with Kevin Phillips in 1969. What is the appropriate follow-up for that? And I did get a bunch of questions about foreign policy. We will go back to foreign policy, absolutely. But it's not the time. It's an election. So we'll be doing that first, okay? Foreign policy can kill you as a president, but it cannot save you, as George Herbert Walker Bush. All right. Used to stop at the water's edge. Remember? Right? You remember that? Of course, did it ever? Or was that always another just like empty, meaningless cliche that we paid lip service to? Not even cliche. It's like a platitude. Was it that was another empty? Well, politics ends at the water's edge. No, it really never did it? Really never did. Or what you meant is maybe what you meant is the military-industrial complex owns the both of you, perhaps. Maybe that's the more accurate way to think about that expression. I think so. All right. Again, don't forget, if you like the videos, don't forget to like them, smash the like button, and share them far and wide. Share them far and wide. People catching up to the work we're doing here, folks. They are. They're catching up to it. It's a good thing. I want to thank Turning Point for coming to me for the straw poll. It's always fun with those guys. Huge participation rate. It was like a 97%, 98% completion rate. Huge. Awesome. Just awesome. Turning Point's getting bigger, guys. I wanted to read an article, and we don't have time. I wanted to read an article about it, though, to kind of like prove that point. Where is it? Where is it? I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, there it is. Just so, right? Just so if you wanted to, you can read it. I will throw it into the chat. But Real Clear Politics had it up there. I think that was perfect for Real Clear Politics to grab this week. How Turning Point, once spurned by the RNC, is becoming Trump's force multiplier in battleground states. All right, so there's certainly a reliance there on Turning Point. Hope they're up for the job, because it is a lot. And there's a lot of work to do. All right, so I'll put the link in the chat when the music's fading out. If you want to read it, if you haven't, you should. It's important. All right. With that in mind, I'm going to kick rocks here before the top of the hour. Let you get over to Jack. And I will see you on Wednesdays. Keep an eye on my feed. Laura is sending me messages. If, again, they agree to do certain things, then we'll do it. And I'll keep you posted. You won't want to miss it. If you didn't see my appearance with Chris from American Greatness on Gorka, go to newsmax.tv or go to newsmax.com and check it out. Sign in with your provider. It was a good conversation where we, of course, mock media for trying to mock us because they're dumb white liberals who don't have black friends and don't understand how the American, black community works in this country and the problems they have faced. And it's like, tell me you're a dumb white liberal with no black friends without telling me you're a dumb white liberal without black friends, right? So stupid. Anyway, or you could just sit there and ignore everything. Now, I mean, even the New York Times is arguing this now. So where are you going to go when the old gray lady agrees with the People's Pundit? Really? I kind of worried that. Should that worry me a little bit that the old gray lady agrees with me? That should maybe worry me. All right. Well, since they got the time wrong for my daughter today, she's home for a little bit and I'm going to spend a little time with her. So I will see you guys on Wednesday and I will drop that link in the chat right now. All right. So nothing but love for you. Don't forget to share the videos far and wide, like them, and subscribe. The best place, of course, is right there. peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com, and push the public polling project. Push it hard. Let's get in the field and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, folks. Deuces. None but love for you. Deuces.